All right, guys, just wanted a bit of a rundown on winter camping. I've done a fair bit in the snow, done a lot of solo camping as a young fella, and typically speaking, it's freaking cold at the moment. So we come down to Kenilworth, it is glorious. It's about 10 o'clock now, so it's warm enough for me to speak clearly to you. What I want to do is just break down a couple of simple basic tips for you guys, because it's winter camping, and if you're a Queenslander, you don't know what cold is. Victorians, yeah, you're used to it. The Tasmanians, they get it. So basically, number one thing is plan ahead. Like with the kids, different plan when it's just me. So obviously it's just a swag and some gear and all that. But with the kids, it's like camper trailer, lots of blankets, heaters, hot water bottles, a lot of planning depending who you're going with and what basically what you're going to be doing. Next thing is to pick the right spot. I mean, honestly, down in the valley, right into the deep is not typically the best thing if you haven't planned for it. So you want to be up the hill a bit. You don't want to be in the snow necessarily unless you're chasing it and you're prepared for it. So where you end up camping can absolutely change your night. And that's a really good tip, guys. By the Creek is beautiful, but it's a bit colder. We planned for it, we picked a great spot. And I can tell you one thing, fire is amazing. So last night the boys were doing a bit of a cook up. They were like out of the fire, didn't bother me and Jamie. We were pretty warm by the fire. And we brought probably about 10 bags of firewood, I think. So, and then we've got about 10 bags spare. So enough fire to keep you warm is a critical element. From the fire, obviously next kind of thing I always talk about is clothing. If you haven't planned out your clothing, you have planned to fail miserably. So basically right now I'm wearing a little bit more than I want to be wearing, but I've got thermals, I've got my thermal socks, I've got my beanie, I've got pants, t-shirt, another jumper, and this. I also got another jacket which I take, good Carhartt stuff. This stuff's rated to -15, which I was never going to use last night, but just in case I bought that extra element. So when it comes to clothing for kids or adults, it's the same theory, guys. You're going to lose heat from your feet and from your head. Your critical organs are in the body, so this is what you want to keep the warmest, but where you lose your temperatures pretty quickly is your feet and head. So a beanie can change your day. So I got these really good merino socks on that are just amazing. Now, I do wear them to bed, but I actually keep a separate set in the bed. If you go to my swag, which we will do a little bit later, I have cleaned it up, kids. It's safe to watch. But I keep a set of clothes in my bed in case, one, I get wet, I get dirty, or just something happens. I just got to have a fresh set in there. So I got a clean pair of pants and a couple of socks. I even keep a beanie in there. Often I take a set of gloves along, but like the fire, I'm not wearing it. But that, having a spare set in the swag can change a day. The other thing is I also keep in some really cold environments. When I hit that snow, I keep a fresh set. What I'm going to wear tomorrow, I don't keep in my bag under the swag. I actually keep it in the bottom of my swag. And if it's really cold, you can put it in your sleeping blanket. And that keeps the next set of clothes warm so they're not frosty and cold, which is a good little tip that I learned from a bunch of my mates when I went to the high country. And I learned what cold was on that weekend. I really figured out what cold was. I've been a Queenslander, never been below 30 degrees. So, and wind chill factor is a really weird thing. So Queenslanders, we live with humidity, Victorians live with wind chill. So wind chill is like, you know, it's 5 degrees or 4 degrees. Wind chill of -15 means it feels like -1,000. So a really good jacket is going to cut that wind, but you want something with some wool in it, because if you don't have it, you're going to freeze to death. Another great little tip, guys, is literally food. Planning your food. Number one, I got a couple of mates to cook away from the fire, so that way the food was hot and they were cold, but I was hot around the fire. That's a mint tip. Guys, a bit of a tip, the wives don't normally like being cold, so maybe you should take the hit on this trip. Definitely go over there, do the cooking, let the wife be at the fire. But yeah, I just talked a couple of mates into doing it last night. The good fellas too, they enjoy the cold apparently.
Dude, I think the gnocchi's overcooked, but
Really?
they won't know any different.
But hearty meal, guys, it is all the difference between thermal internal heating is the right food. So if you're going to go have a salad sandwich, awesomely great in summer. Bit of shrimp's good, but I'll tell you one thing, get some carb in there. Last night I had a bit of gnocchi. It was a blue cheese gnocchi, and I can tell you, mint. But get into it, get it hot. And another small little tip that, again, a couple of blokes told me a long time ago in a hunting trip is literally just go get yourself some of your wife's fit gym food. Eating some of that at night can heat you up. Now, I've camped in some cold places without all the right gear, and just that gym food, high energy, can keep you a little bit warmer at night, and that is going to change a lot of things. Keeping a little bit of firewood in the morning. Again, we had some pretty decent toasties for breakfast, but having that wood is a big difference. Today's, I think it was 2 degrees at 7 o'clock, so probably got very close to zero, it might have been below it. So quick coffee, boil the water, get to go. With food, with cooking, your gas can freeze, your water can freeze. A little tip is to turn your bottles upside down. So flipping your water bottle upside down is going to freeze differently. Then you've got that usable section. Same with your gas. If you've got the little plug-in gas bottles, they're kind of useless. I often keep one in my car, and when cooking, I put one in the pocket and just keep rotating it. Because if you can't cook, it's pretty bad. But again, that was planning, so that comes back to the beginning. The right plan, the right location, the right clothes, the right food can really change your trip. But one other thing that a lot of people don't know, and we figured out with one of the drones, we figured out with the cameras, is batteries don't last. So in the cold, there's less than 30% battery life. So if you need to call someone in an emergency, hey, mum, come and get me, I got a flat. Don't ever do that, it's embarrassing. But if you got to call a mate, your phone isn't going to work. It will freeze the battery, and you'll see 100%, you've got to use it, and it'll be dead. So battery life's a problem. So if you're a bit of a GoPro, a bit of a vlogger guy out there, more batteries is key because they just don't last. And ultimately, you sleep most of the night too. So your sleeping setup is probably the most critical part of this. And I've gone camping in summer where you just literally cannot get cool enough. So you stay up a little bit later, you go for a bit of a dip by the creek. In winter, it is excruciating to be shivering all night. It is very hard to get warm. Your body mass can't cope. So layers, again, layers and clothing can kind of help, but sometimes it doesn't cut it. So in my bed, I sleep off the ground. The ground can take forever to heat up. I just elevate on a stretcher, which is pretty good. A lot of guys in caravans and tents, but if you're on the ground, your mat ain't gonna cut it. I often run like a double layer. If I'm sleeping on the ground, I'll go on just a real small, high quality mat on top of the mat. That traps a bit of heat, so a bit of a layer. I also run just a really nice, comfortable blanket. I just have it underneath me, and that creates trapping more heat. And the golden rule is 2 layers underneath, 1 on top is pretty much how you gotta go if you're sleeping on the ground. Even on a stretcher, that's another layer up. But 2 layers on the ground, 1 on top will absolutely change you. But again, having the right sleeping bag. I don't want to bag out other brands, but if you go and buy yourself a cheap one that says rated for 5 degrees, I promise you, it says 5, what they meant was 15. You're going to find out what they meant when you're freezing cold. Buy a high quality end, a bit of merino, a bit of wool in there. The good gear can change you. Spooning the partner's great, but at the end of the day, I do a lot of camping alone and it ain't going to work. Jacob offered to do it last night, but he doesn't want to talk about that. But basically what you got to do, guys, is just layers in there, the right sleeping bag. But again, condensation is not a negative. Condensation inside your sleeping area is hugely bad. So a lot of guys, what they do is they wrap themselves up in the sleeping bag. They get themselves trapped in that bag to try and get the warmth. It's your hot air that creates the condensation. That is going to condensate inside your sleeping bag. It's very dangerous in the cold to sweat. That's what we want to avoid. So guys, don't mind, get your head out, breathe. But if you are getting a little bit cold, having the spare socks I spoke about earlier, get me warm, beanie on the head. Sometimes you got to sleep in a jacket, but let you breathe, let it just breathe out. A little bit of air. I never fully close up my sleeping bag. Never fully close up my swag area because that's going to create a different temperature. I let a little bit of breeze in. I don't want the wind in. I always face my swag away from the wind so it's cutting across, not coming through. Keeps me a bit warmer. And again, that warmth is going to change the night, which is why it's camping. Winter camping is my favorite. And I think there's absolutely nothing better than a cold night when I'm feeling warm, good food, good mates, a nice hot drink, something in the morning to eat, and then head back on those tracks and just enjoy what God has given us in this country, which is amazing. We're going to take care of it. But guys, they're my pro tips for today. Stay warm in winter, plan ahead, right location, good food, a bit of lithium batteries and a little bit of planning on that, and the right setup, plenty of layers, and you're going to have a great winter camp. And talking of that, Cheers. Little tip, don't know if you know this, it's a natural reaction to food and liquid consumption is the removal of that from the body. At 3 o'clock in the morning when it's negative, it's really hard to get out of my swag, go to the bathroom, get back in and stay warm. So small tip, I don't drink a lot just before bed, so I give it a couple of hours and I actually go before. So if you go for do your wheeze and all that, you're gonna stay warm. If you've got kids, absolutely get them to go, but don't give them water bottles and drinking all night because you're gonna be getting up when they wanna go and then they get back into bed and the other one wakes up and wants to go and then the wife says to you, hey, I wanna go. So secret, get the whole team to go beforehand. If it's yourself, don't worry about your mates, just think of yourself. Go beforehand, but probably 3 to 4 hours before. Don't drink a lot, guys, and you'll stay warm doing that.